To the show. A report by Northeastern University's Center for the Study of Sport in Society gave Major League Baseball a grade of C for its progress in hiring minorities for key administrative positions within the game. A league spokesman called the report flawed. One conclusion is that while minorities do much better in pro sports than general society, the long history of America's pastime featured almost a half-century of exclusion for blacks. CNN reporter Tom Kirkland and producer Tony Cardero have put together a three-part series on blacks in baseball, beginning tonight with the very real but unwritten color line which existed between the white lines.
But today, I'm the greatest of all time.
Black American baseball players are reaping the pleasures of our national pastime. But just beneath the broad grin, painful memories of prejudice and persecution bring the blood to full boil.
Why? I just hate you. I don't like you. Why? Because you're black. You don't belong.
I was almost lynched in Vero Beach, Florida in 1948.
My grandfather, my great-grandfather helped make this country good. Huh? How do you think made those streets out there? Who do you think dug those ditches for the cables and all that stuff? They did it.
63 years before Jackie Robinson's more famous and more profound busting of the big league color barrier, Moses Fleetwood Walker actually was the first, breaking in with the Toledo Mud Hens in 1884, a team that was considered major league at the time. But just 3 years later, while the Cuban Giants were dominating what was called the Negro or colored leagues, Walker's big league career was short-circuited when, for the first time, professional baseball officially drew a color line. No more contracts for blacks. For the next 60 years, just because of their skin color, blacks couldn't compete with whites. Moses Fleetwood Walker was devastated. He wrote a treatise on race relations, imploring all blacks to return at once to Africa, forcibly if need be, because, as he said, nothing but failure and disappointment await them in America. How prophetic. Separate but equal became the law of the land, the national way of life, when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of segregation in 1896. Booker T. Washington, the unchallenged spokesman for Black America, stepped in time with the times, advising his people, quote, "When your head's in the lion's mouth, use your hand to pet him." Still, this game was Black America's pastime too, and play it they did. The early 20th century was a period of great expansion for black baseball. It was the Lincoln Giants dominating in the Northeast, where the best black ball was played despite the fact that more than 90% of the nearly 9 million black population lived in the South. But that was changing with the industrial times. In 1912, the average individual income was about $520, and the black ball player was earning at least that, the best ones better than doubling that figure. After the First World War, America rejoiced. The Roaring Twenties brought out the best in us, but the worst was getting worse. The resurgent Ku Klux Klan were grim enforcers of racist status quo, but the black baseball player was busy among his own kind, practicing the love of his life.
They enjoyed playing the game. They did not want to face the dilemma of trying to integrate baseball. They did not see themselves as civil rights leaders. They saw themselves as athletes, entertainers, professionals.
We knew that we could play, and we knew we was as good as the white boys or better.
We just took it as a foregone conclusion that for the rest of our lives we would be segregated playing baseball.
With the Depression looming, Babe Ruth and his Yankees were doing the chubby tiptoe all over the major leagues. Of course, none of the Sultan's 714 home run swats ever came off a black pitcher. By mid-decade, the dementia of Adolf Hitler was growing, publicly snubbing Jesse Owens' 4 gold medal performance in the '36 Berlin Olympics because his supposedly supreme Aryans could not outrace a black man. Back home, the first viable black baseball leagues were flourishing, called the Negro American and National Leagues. Stars like Josh Gibson, built like Bo Jackson, he too hit bodacious blasts. And the legendary Cool Papa Bell. They say he'd hit the switch and be in bed before the room got dark. But the granddaddy of them all was Satchel Paige. Every bit the powerful persona and performer Babe Ruth was, Satch pitched for many teams, the Kansas City Monarchs among them. Buck O'Neil remembers well. These days, he's a major league scout still working in Kansas City. Before he became the first black coach in the major leagues, he played for and managed the Monarchs, the most successful sports team in Kansas City history.
He said, "Now, Josh, you know what I got you now? Say, I got you 0-2. Say, in this situation, you know I'm supposed to knock you down, don't you?" Say, I'm supposed to knock you down, but I'm not going to knock you down. I'm not going to throw any smoke at your yoke. I'm going to throw a P at your knee. Boom! Strike 3. Josh didn't move the bat. And this is what he did. He got, Satchel about 6'7". Satchel stretched up like that and walked by me and said, you know what, man? Nobody hit Satchel's fastball.
As the world fought Hitler in the Second World War, Major League Baseball's attendance fell. All the fans were flocking to the Negro Leagues. It had become a $2 million a year business, the single biggest black enterprise in the land.
They're looking good. You know why they're looking good? Because when they got to the ball game, here's sitting in the box behind your dugout, here's Ella Fitzgerald. Huh? Yeah. Here's Duke Ellington sitting back there. Here's Fat Wallace sitting back there. You understand what I'm saying to you? And these kind of people sitting down there, Bojangles dancing on top of your dugout.
This is where those old Monarchs used to work their magic, but all that's left of KC's Municipal Stadium are the memories. It's now a community vegetable garden. Back in Satchel's day, neither baseball nor American society in general was anything close to being ripe for integration. And although Page's performances did advance the black ball player a little bit, the dirty work was left to the next generation. In 1945, Jackie Robinson broke into the Negro Leagues here with the Monarchs, but he had no idea what history had in store for him.
One day, it was going to change. See? But all we needed was a Moses. And for his baseball concerned, Jackie was our Moses.
In 1947, it was the sports story of the year. But breaking the color barrier in baseball was far more profound than that. It rocked society. Branch Rickey signed Jackie Robinson. The man of immense talent and fierce pride would have to face the fire of a scared and hateful white world and not fight back.
Suppose I collide with you at second base, and when I get up I say, you dirty black so-and-so. What do?
Mr. Rickey, do you want a ball player who's afraid to fight back?
I want a ball player with guts enough not to fight back.
Rickey's courage and savvy are some of the reasons he's a Hall of Famer, but he was also a good businessman. A famous black sports writer said at the time, Jackie's nimble, Jackie's quick. Jackie's making the turnstiles click.
Branch saw all of this. See? This is America, huh? And capitalistic society. Money.
The reason the blacks were accepted as ball players is because somebody figured out, hey, we got a better chance to win with this guy here. So let's treat him okay.
With the spotlight shining squarely on the color breakthrough, the picture to come on the American horizon was far more unsettling than it appeared. Tom Kirkland, CNN Sports.
More to come in this series, but it brought back some memories for me, Nick. As a young lad, I did get the opportunity to meet Leroy Satchel Paige.
Right,
And, he was doing touring around, different cities and minor league towns and all of that. And he was not a happy man in his older age because he did not get a chance to really shine the way he wanted to in the national spotlight.
And as we see, we were all the losers too. All of these unheralded superstars, several of them. Of course, there was no TV like there was today, and they just passed through the pages, slipped through the cracks almost, and they played under horrendous conditions. The travel was awful, the scheduling, the atrocious equipment. They had nothing. All they were was great. A lot of these guys.
All they were great athletes, and they deserve the recognition. Then they're not getting it then, but they're getting it now, at least in this series.
And part 2 comes up tomorrow night, but we'll be back after this.